Congratulations on your new Nat Geo show, Restaurants at the End of the World. This project has been years in the making and started with the idea of exploring people and the idea of chosen family, given family, and family in general. How did it eventually evolve into the series that we see today?
So, television creation is a long process.
Yeah.
And so, it can start with an idea in years. I mean, the 2020 happened, so that like cut out a lot of actual active work time on this. But Nat Geo found interest in it. They found interest in the seed of storytelling and the idea that we had. And then obviously, Nat Geo, such a iconic brand that I'm going to
Mhm.
trust what they want to do with that idea and make it something even bigger than what I had imagined. And so they got a hold of it and, through their adventure and spin on it. But what was never lost is the idea of storytelling about great people.
Yeah. Said in the past that every challenge that you face in the kitchen has made you a better chef, but I don't think you can imagine some of the scenarios that these chefs in these remote locations have to face. How did their ingenuity inspire you during and after filming?
The thing that ties them all together, because every single one of them gave me something different. I left
Yeah.
feeling very, very different, both personally and professionally. But I think the thing that ties them all together professionally for me is this idea of um, allowing themselves not to have to control every single outcome.
Mm,
So it's like, well, I can't control every single outcome because Mother Nature has its own plan. And being on the remote parts of the world allows them only to have certain things when they want them. The modern
yeah.
conveniences aren't there anymore, and so all of them have this idea of just what will be, and they're going to figure it out. A lot of times in that moment, hours before they're serving people, and they do it with such joy and like playfulness and the sense of relaxation that I don't normally have in that instance. And I had to settle into that because otherwise I was probably going to make them more nervous, being like a ball of nerves.
Same. I felt the same stress watching them put together their menu like hours before.
Yeah. You're like, what are you doing? Shouldn't we already be done with this prep like 4 days ago?
Yeah. What's so interesting about each chef's journey is that often when you're getting your start, you're cooking other people's food. And then, as time goes on, you're discovering your own voice and what you want to say through your cuisine. What's had the biggest development for you on your style and cuisine? And what advice would you share with these chefs?
For a long time, like you were saying, you cook someone else's food and then you step out there. And the first step I made outside of cooking for someone else was I was very much in my head. I was cooking with a lot of ego and I was cooking with a lot
Mm,
of like, I need to make my mark. When in reality, you know, the only story that hasn't been told in food is my story and my perspective and my point of view. And once I realized that, and it was one dish when I was in Berlin filming 36 hours a long time ago, I sat at this tasting menu counter and the chef had served a very simple dish of steamed whitefish, a potato puree, and a spinach juice as a sauce. And I ate it and I was like, God, it's so simple. I was like, holy shit, this is perfect because it fit him. I got to know him. I understood that, him growing up, we were just like steamed vegetables and a piece of fish and some mashed potatoes. And he just brings it up to this level that is just exceptional. And in that moment, I was like, I'm not cooking my story. I'm trying to cook
mm.
the story of success. And I need to settle into, obviously my food story and my history of growing up in the Midwest and finding comfort in that food. So that was a turning point in my culinary career.
Yeah, beautifully said. They really put you through the ringer in this series. Was there a moment when you stopped and said, wait, what do you want me to do?
Luckily, there's a lot of uncertainty in all this filming, 1,000%.
Yeah.
From, I didn't meet the chef until I could meet them on camera. They kept us very, very much
Mm,
separate. They were very good at just making sure any discovery was happening on camera, obviously for the most authentic reaction because I can't act. Um, so if I were to meet someone 8 times, the second to eighth time is going to be a disaster because I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. Um, so the things that they did ask me, overarching things before we went out to film were like, would you be comfortable if we had you go diving in the Arctic? Like they kind of floated these ideas in
Mm,
general. And then they asked me, are there any things that you absolutely will not do? I was like, well, I don't really know, but the things I do know, I'm never going to go bungee jumping. It's just not going to happen. So they're not going to then throw me in there and make me go bungee jumping. So there was a considerate prompt in what I feel comfortable doing
mhm.
physically, of course, because no one wants to put me in that spot.
Yeah. Perfect segue to the next question, but, one of the reasons why I think people have connected with you, so you're so down to earth, and something that was so fun to watch with this series is that you're able to incorporate your personality and humor into this experience, which makes audiences feel like they're part of that ride with you. How were you able to connect so easily with these different chefs and build that trust with them?
Well, I think just in terms of actual time, I had 6
Mm,
days filming with
yeah.
these people and I had 1 day off. So I had 7 days. And oftentimes on my day off, I would hang out with them as well because I was like, okay. And when you know you have 7 days to get to know somebody, you give it everything that you can. And I mean, the credit doesn't go to me. The credit goes to these people actually being genuinely wonderful people
Yeah.
that you want to spend time with and that are so incredibly passionate about showing you everything. Tours of their home, on a day off and making sure that I got to meet their kids properly
Mm,
and spending time with their family and their friends. Like all those different things that happened off camera lended itself to being connected on camera. And that was something that obviously I really, really, really enjoyed because they were all genuinely fantastic people that
yeah.
you wanted to get to know more.
Definitely. Something that I think this series does really brilliantly is it highlights the resilience of the human spirit. What do you hope audiences take away after they see it?
There's so much in this show for people that even don't like restaurants, that don't like food programs, but I think all of us just as humans can find interest in how someone else lives. I mean, we see it all over
Mm,
like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, like day in a life or wildly successful ideas of what it means. And I think it's just because we are curious about how someone else lives their life in a way that feels so kind of different or slightly different from how we live our life. And it's just this natural human curiosity that we get to explore all the time. So I hope that regardless of the title of the show and my profession, um, that just understanding someone else is
mm,
an intrigue and interest.
yeah, beautifully said. How much say do you have in kind of the locations that you go to? And if you're likely to have more adventures, what's left on
Mhm.
that bucket list?
I mean, God, there's so many places. There are so many places. And, there's a lot of planning obviously involved.
Yeah.
So timing of working with these folks, timing of, logistically speaking, there's a lot of things. We have an amazing creative department. A woman named Missy was leading the charge in the creative and meeting and vetting these restaurants and people. Pre-production goes out there months before I even go out there to make sure that there's a story that these people can actively convey their story and that there's potentially a real life event happening at the end of it that we are going to in real life work towards and that they actually want us there. So it's a mutual decision based on who they are and them wanting us to be there. But there's it comes to me when it's ready,
Mm,
which I like because I don't need to know anything until you tell me that it's time to go there. Because I'll go anywhere. I'm not great in the heat and I'm not great with mosquitoes. And there are going to be many more places like that, I'm sure. But I'm going to wear just a full body net of mosquito protection. So everything will be fine.
Well, I got one final question for you. You've been such a trailblazer throughout your career, bringing much needed representation to the screen for various communities. Have you had time to reflect on the contributions you've made, and what has it meant for you to highlight your story on a network like Nat Geo?
That's a big question. I guess, for a long time, I didn't really think about it.
Mm,
The idea of being a trailblazer is like, holy shit. Um, I'm just trying to like live my best life also while I get to do all this stuff and, find ways of growing my curiosity and my education in ways that obviously I'm very privileged to do by way of work. Um, I mean, it's more of a forefront, sure, because the messages I get and the people reaching out
Yeah.
saying how important it is to them. And if that's it at the end of the day, where someone else, I just get one or two, or, I've gotten a lot of
Yeah.
messages in many various communities. That's what it's about. And it's that reminder of saying you are in our community and you have done something for us that brings it back to the forefront for me. Because
Yeah.
sometimes, being that person, it's not this constant thing that I'm always thinking about. I'm just like trying to live my life like everyone else is trying to live their life. But I feel incredibly grateful for people that take time to send messages and remind me of the fact that I am these things. Because sometimes, like specifically speaking of like the Asian community, I never thought I was part of it. I felt really
Mm.
insecure about being part of it because I didn't grow up with an Asian family. I left Korea. I grew up as an adoptee, and so having that relationship with me and my culture has been an ongoing emotional growing growth that I need to go through.
Yeah.
So being able to be embraced by the Asian community to say you belong with us too, that is like it's that's necessary. I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Truly needed to hear that.